Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, listening to it, or however you're hearing it. I am solo today, and first I just want to start off by expressing my gratitude to people who have reached out recently, and this one's for you, I guess, right? I wanted to take a little time and walk through some of the exercises that people have been asking about. So my niece and I recently did the Wheel of Life exercise, and if you watch or refer to that episode, that podcast video on YouTube, whatever however you consume it, you'll see that Wheel of Life and what I went through with her. But I also mentioned the eulogy exercise, and I mentioned the success map that Dean Graziosi actually shared when I was out in Arizona. So I just want to lay it out for you. It's a great exercise. All of them are, but especially the eulogy exercise would be the first one I'd recommend. And I don't think that you need to definitely write the eulogy, right? Start practicing. I don't know where you are in your journey. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. I don't know what your goals are or what your belief is about whether or not you can accomplish whatever it is you're after. But my goal, the reason I'm here, the reason that I'm doing this now is when I was at a coaching seminar years ago, we were asked to write down something that was the most important mission to us, right? It was what is my mission? Like how can I summarize my mission? And for me, the words that came to me were see their greatness and tell them. So that's what I'm here for. When I look at you, whoever you are, if I were to look at you, if I were to sit with you and see you, I would be looking for your gift. And that's probably because, believe it or not, Jim Carrey was the person who helped me figure this part of my own journey out. He once asked in I want to say it was a commencement speech at a college. He once said, how will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? And that question, I wrote that down. It's actually on my LinkedIn page. It became an important question to me. And this is my service to the world. This is my opportunity to kind of share my gift with the world. And the way I see it is, my gift is, I love information. I have a wall here of bookshelves and books on those bookshelves. And I became obsessed with not just consuming, but integrating as much valuable information as I could and dissecting or extracting as much value as I could from the information that I was consuming, from the books, from the seminars, from conversations with people. It's become an obsession for me, and an enjoyable one, not work. And I want to share as much as I can. And listen, I'm no guru. I'm not an example of what somebody should be like. I'm grateful that I am who I am, and that there is one of me. But I want to encourage people like yourself to be whoever you are, and be the best version of it. And the way that I know how to do that, or what I know to share, is, well, to start with this. So the eulogy exercise that I mentioned to my niece a couple weeks ago, let's start with what a eulogy is, right? We all know what a eulogy is, kind of, right? A eulogy means good words, right? E-U-L-O-G-Y. It comes from eulogia, right? It means good words. Hopefully when we die, somebody has good words to say about us. Now we can hope right? We can let that be a hope. Or we can build our lives with intention so that we have as much impact, as much influence in the way or over the way people see us or talk about us when we're gone, or even before we're gone, as we possibly can. Now, we can't control the thoughts of others, and that's not the important part. And I said to my niece when we were walking through the exercise, it's not about what people say about you. It's about what you are able to say about yourself. And I've found in my own journey that the most difficult part of my own life was when I couldn't say the things about myself that I wanted to say. Or that when I sat down and I realized I wasn't being completely true to myself. And there's a trite statement, to thine own self be true. And it is probably one of the most important secrets of life. Secret because it's in plain sight. It's right in front of us, right before our eyes, all of the time. And one of my favorite ancient quotes is, and it's said every day now too, but act first to desire thine own good opinion. And I believe it was Socrates that said that. Or it may have been Aristotle, I'm sorry. So the eulogy exercise is about figuring out, right, getting clarity. And clarity gives us power, real power. Clarity over who we want to be. Clarity about the person you want to become. Because we're all born in the same situation, right? Our conditions vary, but our situation is the same. Is we have all the potential before us that we could ask for. The possibilities, especially being born today, the possibilities are endless. Right? To say another trite saying, that what you can be, the potential in front of you is immense. The only thing that can stop you is yourself. So the eulogy exercise is an attempt to bring some sort of direction to that. Now, over the years, I've discovered that the wisdom that people try to share with us, I believe, is a direction on how to go about this thing that we call life. What is it like? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Right? Those are questions we tend to ask early in our lives, and then some of us dismiss it, and some of us continue to seek that answer or to fulfill whatever it is that we come to believe about our purpose. And some of us just find a way to get by, and some of us find a way to live to the fullest, and some of us are just trying to figure our way around. I don't know where you fall, but the eulogy is a way of saying, hey, you know what? This is who I really want to be, and getting clarity on some of the most important distinctions that you can make about yourself. And what I encourage is the exercises that you sit down and imagine that you go 100 years into the future, or to your 100th birthday, however you'd like to do it. If you want to be 88, be 88, right? But go to your 100th birthday is the way I encourage people to approach this exercise. Go out to your 100th birthday, you pass away somewhere in that time frame, and you are looking back on your life. And as you look back, you're reflecting about the person that you are proud of. You've lived your life in the way that you found fulfillment, had the greatest impact, positive impact, and you literally were the best version of yourself. So you've already done this. You're now in the future and you're looking back at your life. I have an exercise book, a workbook that you can go through with this. So reach out to me if you like it, and it'll kind of walk you through the exercise. But the first step is there are adjectives that you want to be able to use to describe yourself. What are some of those adjectives? Jot those down. Right? Don't go crazy into trying to write the perfect eulogy, to be a poet, or to be remembered for having something snazzy written down. Just put some adjectives down that you want to be able to say about yourself. Like here, I've got some examples here. And before you even start writing adjectives, think about this. There are different domains of your life, and that's what the Wheel of Life exercise is kind of about. There are different areas of your life. And so in the workbook that I can send you, some of the adjectives I break out into different categories. So you have your core character, right? You have things that surround, or adjectives that surround growth and development, if that's important to you. And I hope it is. And how you treated others. Like, what do you want to be able to say about yourself and the way that you interacted with other people? Your relational adjectives. Impact and legacy. So that can be career or mission is a better, in my mind, better way of thinking about it. What are some of the adjectives that you want to be able to use to describe yourself and your mission in life? And then family, work, all these, there's different subcategories, right? Environment, financial, right? You might have goals that fall into each of them. So think of different adjectives that fall into that area. Obviously, loving is an easy place to start. Kind is an easy place. Generous is an easy place to start. Write those down if those are them. Driven, if you want to be a driven person. And the reason is because you want to get clear on how you want to be in life, who you want to become. If you can get some clarity around that, then you'll know what you want to do. You'll know the next steps. I learned to begin this way from Tony Robbins' work. If you haven't heard of Tony Robbins, look him up. You might be living under a rock at this point, but Tony Robbins wrote a book, and it's actually Awaken the Giant Within is the book that sits on my bookshelf. But he also has a seminar, and I haven't been blessed enough to, let me rephrase that, I haven't taken advantage of the opportunity to attend his live seminar, but I pulled up Unleash the Power Within on YouTube, and before that, I stole my father's, well, I borrowed it and never did return it, sorry Dad. I borrowed the 6-disc set from when it wasn't even DVDs, it was CDs, of the Unleash the Power Within seminar that Tony Robbins used to put out, that he used to sell. And I borrowed that in my mid-20s and found Tony Robbins' work that way. And then I've just become that's where my obsession actually began, with consuming information, with reading books and learning. It was Tony Robbins who pointed to the fact that when I consume a book, if it took you 10 years to write a book on a subject and I can read that book in, say, a week, then I can condense your time. I can take 10 years of energy, of work, attention, of skill, mastery, expertise, experience, and I can condense it down to whatever time frame that I can read that book in. He set out to read a book a day, and says he didn't do exactly that, but over the course of a couple of years, he read about 700 books. And I set out to read, because this became an important fascination in my life, I set out to read one book a week. I wanted to read 52 books. I hadn't read in a long time. I hadn't really read in a long time, I should say. And I said, okay, I'm going to start reading books that I believe will bring value to my life, and I get to choose those. Nobody gets to tell me. People can make recommendations, but I get to choose whatever book. And any book counts. It's even grown now because of technology that Audible counts. You can debate that with me if you'd like, but the idea is, don't restrict yourself in how you gain access to the information. And I'll go back to what I was saying, is my goal was to consume 52 books, to absorb 52 books in a year. And my first year, I read 12 books. And instead of being disappointed in myself for not hitting my goal, I said, okay, 12 books was a lot closer to the 52 than I was the prior year because I hadn't set the goal. So I doubled down and said, okay, I'm going to commit again. I'm going to do 52 books this year. So the second year I set out and I hit 36. So that was 3 times more than I had read the year before, which was infinitely more than the year before because I hadn't read any books. And so now I said, okay, third year, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to set out to read 52 books. And in that third year, I'd read 104 books. So I doubled my goal. And then I was off to the races. Then it became, I didn't have to continue tracking annually. Now I did. I kept a spreadsheet for a while of every book that I read, partly in order to be able to share it with other people. So if somebody said, well, you've read it, but what's the best book on this? I could think about it, but I could also reference something and go back and say, these are the books that I read that I remember that year that I read this book, or I read it around the time of this book. And I could go back and I had a catalog that I kept up with for a little while. And I do wish that I had continued to keep up with it, but I have stopped now. Now I can cheat and look in Audible and see what I've read. And for the most part, I remember a lot of the best books. I remember which ones to recommend. And if anybody's curious about that, reach out and I'd be happy to share that. But the point was, Tony Robbins, in his work, he pointed to the fact that he revealed to me, his work revealed to me that by setting down a goal, I was more likely to obtain it. Now, even if I missed it a couple times, I was more likely to obtain it. And the eulogy exercise is my version of his RPM, right? RPM is results, purpose, massive action plan, or MAP, right? So RPM stands for results, purpose, massive action plan. That is what he has evolved OPA into, which OPA was, I believe, his original version of RPM, which is outcome, purpose, action. And outcome or result is you're beginning with the end in mind. We've all heard, or we may have heard that before, that you should begin with the end in mind. You should know where you're going. You don't get in the car and begin to take a journey, especially if you're going to take a vacation, right? Great example is vacation. You don't just load up the car, unless your vacation is just to journey wherever the wind takes you. You don't just load up the car and get going without having a destination in mind. When we travel, we like to pick out the destination, plan it, compare it to other places we want to go, pick a spot, book the tickets, and then plan some of our trip. Well, when I'm planning my vacation, I'm planning how I'm going to spend my luxury time, my leisure time. And some of it is left up to chance, right? We enjoy a nap on the beach if we're down in Punta Cana. We know that, we're going to enjoy a nice dinner at some of the restaurants that are available on the resort we go to. Or if we're on a cruise, same type of idea, but you get the picture. That is a vacation. The eulogy is an opportunity to do that with my life. So by going out and starting with these adjectives, I'm starting to think about the kind of person that I want to become, the person that I want to be, not that I want people to see me as. Esse quam videri. Esse quam videri is a Latin motto. It means to be rather than to seem. And it became an important mantra, if you will, for me, because I was obsessed with, for so long, with wanting people to have a high opinion of me. And I had to come to the realization, or I came to, thank God, the realization that other people's opinions about me don't matter. I have it written down here. Your perception of me is a reflection of you, and my reaction to you is an awareness of me. So what other people's perception of me is not my business. What is my business is what I do with it. So it can inform me, it can be misinformation, it can be a truth that I need to seek more revelation on. There's so many ways that you can interpret other people's information, but an important thing to remember is that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So the world is going to reflect back to you, and you can debate that if you like. I'd love to have a conversation about it if you disagree, but you see the world as you are. You see the things around you as you are. Everything's a reflection back to you. And one of the ways that I see this is when I look at somebody and their rudeness or their arrogance offends me. It is my arrogance or my own rudeness that is offending me. What that means is inside of me, I have these details, these characteristics that I dislike. Now, I may not act them out on a regular basis anymore, or I may. And that person's behavior reminds me of the behavior in myself that I despise. And that's where I get disturbed. That's what the disturbance within me is. Now, you can debate it and you can say, no, it's that person. When that person said that offensive thing, it was the offensive thing that offended me. Fine. Listen, I believe that there are different types of people in the world. And I believe that some people have a victim mentality and some people have a victor mentality. And I prefer to be the victor. The problem is we get to choose that. Now, if you choose to live in a victim state, then I might not be the person for you to listen to. You will not like a lot of the things I have to say. And it would be disappointing if you turned it off, because I think there's a lot of value. Now, I'm not saying that people can go around and act however they like. I've done that in my own life, and I recognize the failures or the shortcomings that come with that type of behavior. But that person is not the reason why you're offended by something. You are. Everything you do in life is a choice. If you choose not to set down a path, not to use the eulogy exercise, it's not because the eulogy exercise can't help you achieve the things you want to or become the kind of person you want to be. It's because you chose not to do it. You chose not to make it work. And this might not be for you. Somebody who could benefit from this is somebody who believes in abundance, who believes that the growth mindset is a better way of looking at the world. If you think you already know everything and you don't need my help, by all means, I am not here to push my way of seeing things. I'm here to share it, and if it's received, it's received. Go for it. So let's go back to the exercise. The eulogy exercise, again, starts with those adjectives. It starts with those ideas, right? And the domains, the 8 domains in the circle of life. I used to use 7, but I use 8 now, and it just for the ease of drawing the pizza pie, right? But the different domains that you want to think about in your life is the physical domain, the social domain, the spiritual domain. You have the emotional, the environmental, the financial, the intellectual, and the occupational, right? Those are the 8 domains. And we'll go over the Wheel of Life exercise more in depth. If you watch the episode I did with my niece, you'll see us kind of go through it and what that exercise might look like one-on-one. She's 15 years old, so if you're 15, it looks a little different than if you're actually sitting down and really going through it as a young adult in your 20s. I know I went through it. I believe I was early 30s when I really went through the Wheel of Life exercise in a structured way. Back to the eulogy. The whole idea of the eulogy, what you want to write is starting with the adjectives, and that's to jog your brain, right? You're going to give yourself, I'll read some here, just to get your brain going. Empathetic, supportive, encouraging, respectful, nurturing, dependable, inclusive. Again, I'll share this list with you. I've got a whole lot of them. And if you have the list in front of you, if you have an adjective list, you can just go through and read them and circle them, right? You're going to have a whole lot of them. And what I recommend is figuring out a whole list of adjectives, just because that's going to jog your brain. It's going to jog your mind, and it's going to get you in a state of really being introspective, being forward-looking, right, as you're looking backward. And as you're looking backward on your life about the things you want to be able to say about yourself, I encourage you to pick one adjective from each category. Right? Just start with one adjective that is most important to you at this moment. Right? Whichever one jumps out at you first. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to get bogged down in the idea of, okay, well, I've got to pick the most important one. So, ooh, these are really close, and then this one. Listen, pick one. Pick one and write one sentence about why that's important to you. Right? Let's take supportive as an example here. Now, why is it important to me that supportive is one of the characteristics that I embody in my life moving forward? Because relationships are important to me. And when my friends or loved ones need me, I want to be there for them. I want to be able to lift them up to bring them value. That's enough. Stop there. Right? You can keep going if you want to. If it's rolling out of you, keep writing. Right? Just write a sentence about it. Again, it doesn't have to be a perfectly structured eulogy, but that's a part of your eulogy. Right? And then pick another adjective. Okay, so I picked supportive. I did what I needed to do with that one. Now, inspirational. Okay, inspirational. I hope that my life is inspirational to others. And I write that down. And so why is that important? Why do I want to be seen? Or why do I want to be? Why don't I be able to see myself as an inspirational person? Because sharing my gift with other people is important to me. And if I can have a positive impact on somebody else, and they can turn and have a positive impact on somebody else, I believe that makes the world a better place. And if I can share my gift, and somebody else can find meaning and a reason to stay and be their best version of themselves, to grow, and I write what means something to me. And then as I do that, I take a handful of adjectives and I do that with it. I look back on my life and I think, okay, here I am. I'm 100 years old. I passed away. I'm going to give my own eulogy now. And it's an exercise, right? It's a mental exercise. Obviously, you're dead. You can't give your own eulogy. That's the beauty of this imagination. So I'm looking back now, and maybe I come up with an example, right? Supportive. I can come up with an example I've already had. I can come up with an example of a time where I wasn't as supportive to other people as I wished that I was. And I can reframe that for myself, and what would I do moving forward, right? So I have a friend who has gone through a hard time in his marriage. I have a friend who's gone through a hard time when he lost a family member, when a loved one died, when whatever it is, I write it down and I say, okay, when so-and-so lost their friend, their mother, their father, their friend, their uncle, their brother, their child, God forbid, I showed up and I was supportive. I understood that they needed to just be sat with sometimes. That being there for the other person was enough energy. And I remember we sat and we talked and he shared with me a story. And now I write a little bit. Just a little bit. And it doesn't have to be long, just a sentence or two. He shared a story and we chuckled about a funny memory he had about his grandmother, about his mother, about his father, whoever it is. And right. That joy in that moment, I remember when he looked at me and said, thanks, I really needed that. Those kinds of moments meant a lot to me. Right? Meant a lot to me because, again, I'm looking back at my life. And I see these types of moments. I do the same thing. Let's say creative is one of the characteristics. Right? You get the picture. All you're doing is you're writing in pieces. Don't make it harder than it has to be. So start with adjectives, then a sentence or two about why that's important, and then a memory or two about, or it doesn't even have to be, well, it is a memory in the exercise, but a type of moment. Generosity is an example. I looking back, I remember there was this time that my wife and I were at a zoo, because we enjoy going to zoos, and my wife and I were at a zoo, and there were some really great people there, and I was able to make a donation right there on the spot, and no praise, no fanfare, but I made a large donation to that zoo because of the good work they were doing, and the people there, or I met a young person there who I made a heavy-handed tip to, so that they could pursue whatever dream it was. Maybe it was the photography kid. He wanted to be a marine biologist, and I remember I gave him, $1,000 because I had the financial freedom to do so. Right? Whatever it is, right? These are fabricated memories, but these are the types of moments that I want to see looking back. So I go out the 100 years and I create this, what seems like a fantasy life, because it's my eulogy. I get to imagine the kind of person that I want to become. That's the eulogy exercise. Right? There's more to it. I'll share it with you if you're interested in it. Like I said, I've got it in a workshop format, a workbook format. I can convert it to for you. And the value becomes, now that I've thought about it, now that I've considered it, now that I know what the result looks like, I know why I want it, because that's part of the exercise. And some other exercises we're going to do are going to be about purpose and about finding your why. Like, how do you discover your why? What is your real motivation for being in life? Now that I have that laid out, my action plan is going to be different than if I was just trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? That's a hard question. Like, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? There's a quote, and I really enjoy this quote. I believe it was John Lennon was asked when he was in school by his teacher what he'd wanted to be when he grew up. His teacher asked him, and he said, "I want to be happy." And the teacher said, "I don't think you understand the assignment." And he said, "I don't think you understand life." I love that story. I love that anecdote, because it plays itself out the same way for me. Once I know what I want to be, who I want to become, and I have that eulogy laid out, it can change. It will grow. It will evolve as I grow, as I become better, and I get more clarity. I return to the exercise from time to time, and I lay it out for myself. But now, what I choose to do is going to be influenced by the person that I've laid out for myself to become, by my own standards, by my own deciding. People can help you, and people will help you. Hopefully, throughout your life, people are going to give you guidance that will have a lasting impact on you. I know throughout my life, I've had a handful of teachers who have done so, spiritual leaders, adult guidance. God, I'm sitting here thinking Mike was the name. I don't remember his last name, but there's a man named Mike when I was in college who I should have listened to better. There was Mrs. Holcomb in high school, one of my art teachers, Mama Duck, Mrs. Segrich. So many people in my life. Jenny, Jan, those are the two most recent people who we've lost in my family. Moved on. my parents and grandparents, my brothers and sisters, so many people who I look back at my life and I think, God, if I was only smart enough to see the signs as I was growing up, I'd be in a very different position. And so when this exercise was introduced to me, or when I was introduced to this exercise, or this way of aligning myself with the best version of myself is the way I like to see it, I said, okay, I can't go back and do anything about the past. But what I can do is start right now and make important decisions about my future. So the point of this one is to help you with a practical exercise to examine who you can be, who you want to be, who you are at your core. I hope it helps you. I hope it gives you a way of laying it out for yourself. If there's anything I can do to offer guidance or clarity around the exercise, reach out to me and let me know. I hope this was helpful. But the idea here is you can be so much more than you think right now. I don't know where you are. I don't know what your journey looks like, but what is inside of you, who you have the potential to become, is greatness.